What's up everyone, thanks for watching. Today I'm going to be building this drill charger and sanding station as a first attempt to start organizing my new shop. So let's get started. I'm using 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood for this project because it's flat, stable, and I think it looks good when made into shop furniture. I started at the table saw ripping the plywood down to make the two sides and the middle divider. Next I'll use my crosscut sled to cut all the pieces down to the right length. I need to create dados in the sides and the middle divider to hold the shelves and the back, so I'll switch out my table saw blade for a dado stack. I started by making the grooves for the back panel first. On this case, I'm insetting the back panel 3/4 of an inch. I'll be using a French cleat system to hold this to the wall, and I want the case to sit flush against the wall. So by insetting it like this allows me to conceal the cleat system. After performing a quick test fit, I'm ready to start cutting the dados for the shelves. One side of the cabinet is going to have trays that slide in and out to hold loose sandpaper, so here I'm just laying out a mark every couple inches of where I'm going to put those grooves. The trays are going to be made out of 1/4 inch masonite board or hard board, so I'll go back to my regular saw blade to make these grooves. And since the saw blade's not quite a 1/4 inch thick, I'll have to make the grooves in 2 passes. After the second pass, I'll do a quick test fit with a piece of scrap hardy board just to make sure everything's going to slide in and out nice and smooth. Now that I'm done with the sides and the divider and back to my regular saw blade, I'll cut out the back panel and rip down a board that'll become the shelves of the cabinet. For shelves on one side of the cabinet, I'll put a stop block on the side of my crosscut sled and cut 3 shelves all to the same size. Then I can do a dry fit with all the pieces that I have so far and measure the length of the shelves I need to cut for the opposite side of the cabinet. Now I can mark out my boards, readjust my stop block on my crosscut sled, and make the additional shelves. Then I can do a test fit of those additional couple of shelves just to make sure I got everything right. The bottom shelves of one side of the cabinet is going to hold the drill and impact driver that I have. So here I'm just cutting out the slots that they'll slide into at the bandsaw. I'm going to create 45-degree angles at the top of the cabinet where the battery chargers are going to sit, just so that I don't cut my arms on any sharp edges when I go to pull the batteries in and out. Next I'll sand all the parts down with my random orbital sander and some 220 grit paper. Another good thing about using this Baltic birch plywood are the plies or the veneers are really thick, so you can use a power sander and not worry about burning through the layers. The first pieces to go together are the side assemblies attached to the back panel. Then I can apply glue to the middle divider's dados, install the shelves, and start to clamp the piece together. I'll get all the clamps installed, check the case for square, and then clean any glue up that may have squeezed out. After letting the glue set overnight on the case, I started the next morning by cutting out the shelves that'll hold the sandpaper. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using masonite or hardboard for the shelves. I normally have some of this stuff laying around. You can pick up a 4x8 sheet for under $10, and it's a good material to have around the shop. I'll just rip the boards down to their right width, and then use the crosscut sled to cut the shelves to the right length. I'm creating a lip in the front of the shelf that holds the battery chargers, so I'll cut the piece out that I need at the table saw, install it to the case with some glue, and then secure it in with some pin nails until the glue dries. Next I'll create the French cleats that's going to hold the shelf to the wall. It's going to be made of 2 pieces of scrap plywood, the 3/4 inch stuff I've been using for the whole project, and I'll go over to the table saw and cut them at a 45-degree angle so that the 2 pieces will slide into each other. And then while I'm at the table saw, I'm also cutting out this top shelf piece. I'm going to have the battery chargers sit at an angle just so they're easier to get in and out, and instead of any kind of complicated joinery or dados, I'll just cut 2 angles on each end of the board and then just slide the piece on top of the shelf. Installing the French cleat to the case is pretty easy. It involves just drilling a couple of countersunk pilot holes and using a level to make sure the French cleat goes on straight. I'm leaving a gap on the one side of the case so that I can run some wires from the battery charger down the back. Next, I'll use my 220 grit sanding paper and a sanding block to go over the whole piece and clean up all the faces of the plywood and ease over all the edges. To add some protection and put a finish on this project, I'm using some wipe-on oil-based polyurethane. I chose this because I had some on hand. It's cheap and it's shop furniture, it's not that important. But if you don't like the yellowing that the oil-based polyurethane gives, I see a lot of people use water-based poly on this type of plywood. It just leaves that nice pale look of the birch. Once I've given the finish some time to dry, I'll install the top shelf that's going to hold the battery chargers and start routing the wires down the back of the case. I'll do a little cable management and secure the wires on the back so they don't get caught in the French cleat when I install the shelf to the wall. And then to keep the battery chargers in place when I slide the batteries in and out, I created these small blocks and just screw them in right behind the charger, and it keeps the charger wedged in between that front lip and the back block, and it should keep everything pretty secure. The next step is to install the other half of the French cleat to the wall. I'll position everything where I want it and then use a level to make sure that the French cleat goes on nice and straight. And once that piece is installed to the wall, I can come back and install the shelf. Using a French cleat system like this makes it easy to install the shelf with just one person. It also makes it easy to move the furniture later on if I decide I want it in a different location. And once the cabinet's secured to the wall, I'll install the loose shelves that I created earlier, and then install this power supply off to the side of the cabinet to plug the drill chargers into. Now the cabinet's stable and secure, I'll do a quick test drive to see how easy it is to get the batteries in and out of the chargers. I'm glad I decided to add the slanted top shelf. It makes the operation of sliding the batteries in and out of the chargers a lot easier. Now all that was left to do is organize the shelf. I slid the drills into their place and then started installing all my sandpaper supplies. I was able to fit all my loose sandpaper, all my random orbit pads, steel wool, emery cloth, even the drum sander paper that I have. And now I have a place to store my random orbital sander on the top shelf, so everything feels nice and organized. This is the first of a few shop organization projects that I'll be making over the next couple of months. I hope you guys stick around to watch them. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell to see when my new videos come out, and thanks for watching.